I am Lisa Price, founder of Carol's Daughter, and this is how I made it. Carol's Daughter started as a hobby that began with fragrance. I have loved fragrance my entire life and still do. I spend a lot of time in a fragrance department when I really don't need to since I make fragrances. But it is something that I'm really passionate about and love. And I began to blend my own fragrances and then from there created body products to wear with them so I could layer my lotion with my scent, with my shower gel. It was something that I did for me as a hobby, that I did for friends and family as gifts. And my mother encouraged me 21 years ago to sell at a church flea market. And that was the first time that I went out somewhere and sold the products to people that I didn't know. And that was the beginning of me doing these different craft fairs and flea markets and also building that connection with my customer. I worked as a writer's assistant on The Cosby Show, the last 2 seasons of The Cosby Show. And it was when my business was still a hobby. And I think what happened was I really loved my job a lot. So, you know, when I came home and I didn't have to work, I didn't have that feeling like, oh, thank God I'm not at the office, and, you know, oh, thank God I don't have to go to work and I'm just gonna relax. And, you know, I remember having a job before that I didn't like. And there's almost this escape into nothingness that you do when you just hate your job. And because I loved it, I escaped into creativity. Like I didn't come home totally stressed out and angry and bitter. And I started to do these things in the kitchen and play around. I started Carol's Daughter with $100. That initial $100 was what I needed to get ready for that first flea market. In the beginning of me getting my product to people, I was fortunate in that I worked in television production and my husband worked in television production, and we were able to give it to people who were our friends, but they were friends who happened to be makeup artists on TV and films and who happened to be hairstylists, and they could get the products to some of their clients. And I learned really early the importance of just gifting things and getting things into people's hands because you never know where it could lead. With Will and Jada being fans of the brand, they got the products through Jazzy Jeff, whom I've never met, and one day when I do, I will give him the biggest hug ever. But he knew how much Jada loved products like this and had found out about Carol's Daughter, and he used to order for her. But I had a customer service company that took orders kind of like after hours, and they wrote his name down on all of his order forms as Jess Towns. So I thought there was a woman named Jess in Philly that just bought a lot of stuff. And it was actually Jeff Towns who was sending products to Jada, and then Jada shared them with Will and other members of the family. So they had been customers and using the products since 97 or 98 and didn't become investors until 2005. But, you know, people have been very kind in, you know, giving quotes and kind of spreading that message for me, and I really, really appreciate it. Not just from the celebrities, but from regular women as well. My husband always says there'd be no Carol's Daughter today if it hadn't been for the Sister Girl Network, because it was just one friend telling another friend. The reason that Carol's Daughter started out as a natural brand was more of a practical thing. I'm making products in my kitchen. I want to make sure that everything is really safe. I was the only one in the kitchen making things. It's hard for me to say that it was totally a one-woman show because my husband's always been really supportive. So he would make deliveries for me. He would help me sell. You know, it was just the two of us for a really long time. I'm glad I had a lot of brothers because I needed a lot of help. But it was a lot of family initially, and I was the person that sort of delegated to everybody what they needed to do. But when it came to the kitchen, it was me in the kitchen. Business proud, that sort of spills over into personal. I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say it was getting on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And it's so hard to say that it's that one, because that is not solely business. There's so much personal in there because of who she was to me at the time and what she represented. You know, being someone who remembers the first day that she came onto television and we had no one like her. It's just amazing. And to have met her and been on the show and had that experience, and you know, brief conversation, but conversation nonetheless, and you know, shaking the hand, and it was very surreal. And I'm glad it aired on television, because I might not have believed it actually happened. It felt so much like a dream. There were many times when I would sort of just stand there and look around at what I was doing and like, what is going on? You know, there was a moment when I was getting ready for the holidays, and it meant that I had to ramp up and make a whole bunch of stuff, because during like this 10-day period in December, I would just go out and do craft fairs and expos and have parties in my house. And there was really very little time for production. So all of that production needed to be done up front. And I went out to purchase bottles and jars from my wholesaler, and my husband and I brought them home, and I was putting tablecloths over boxes of bottles and trying to like make believe it was a piece of furniture, so it just sort of blended into the apartment. And I remember looking at it like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is out of control. Like, what if you can't sell all of this stuff? And it was the largest amount of bottles I had ever purchased. It was like $780 something worth of bottles and jars, and I'd never spent that much money before. For customers, I think having a person just like them validate something is important. There is a certain cachet that comes from a celebrity validating a product, but I think a celebrity validating a product helps you with a potential retail partner, and it helps you get press, but it doesn't necessarily equate to sales in the exact same way. But when another woman that looks just like you, that you relate to, you know, whether she's a mom or an athlete, you know, if you can look at her and identify with her, and she says, this is the best lotion I have ever tried in my life, nothing is bigger and more powerful than that. I'm grateful that we've had that kind of word of mouth for 21 years.